Hi, this is Flash Advanced Dialogue 2, a two-character sequence. Alright, so in this class we'll focus on action and reaction between two characters. The animation should be 10 to 15 seconds long. Remember our workflow. We're going to do lip sync first, then do the body animation, and then facial animation. Now in this video we're not going to do all that. I have this animation blocked where I'm going to go through the thought process behind how I plan this two-character sequence out. When you're animating, you have to incorporate all the animation principles. You should really have the animation principles either written down on a piece of paper or typed out on a piece of paper, and just stick that piece of paper next to your screen. Use it as a checklist as you're going through and blocking your animation. Ask yourself, did I use this animation principle? Did I use that animation principle? Where do I need it? And did I incorporate it properly or appropriately where it needs to be? So it's really important to continuously be thinking about those animation principles as you're posing out your character. So this is the file that you're going to get. It's going to have the man and the woman character, training characters, just sitting there on the stage in a shot comp as usual. And you're going to have to put them into their initial poses and then start animating. So let's just take a look at this file and then I'll show you the blocking. Alright, so we'll go inside the shot comp. You have the woman character and the man character. There's no background. You can add a background if you want. And then we have our dialogue clip. Actually, I'm just going to go back out to the scene one, the outside symbol layer here. We also have the dialogue clip here. Just like in our other files, there's a dialogue clip inside every symbol, basically. So if you go inside the man or the woman, there'll be a dialogue layer in there as well, at the bottom, and you'll see it there as well. Right? And then also inside the head, if you go to the bottom, and it's the same dialogue clip. If you want to hear it while you're inside the head, you have to have it there. I'm going to jump back out. If you want to hear it while you're out here, in the symbol layer where we have all the body parts separated. So I just put it on every layer of these symbols so that I can hear it wherever I'm at. Alright, so let's take a look at what we've done here in the blocked file. So you can see here, these are my initial poses that I put them into. I'm going to go inside the shot comp. I have a storyboard in here. Your file will have a storyboard that's blank. These storyboards are just made of line and fill, so to keep them locked, just lock it up in the layer. And there's two layers for the storyboard. There's a storyboard layer. I'm going to unvisit for a minute just so you can see. It's just the white and the black. There's another layer on top which is board drawings. You can put your drawings on top, right on top of the storyboard. Make sure it's on a different layer though so you can edit your drawings if you want to. Okay, so in your file where you have the characters just without any animation, before you even start animating, listen to the audio. You can close your eyes and really think about how you want the characters to move, how you want them to act out this piece. So listen to what they're saying and really think about it. So you want to organize your thoughts though. You're going to start with one character. I always start with the character that begins speaking first. I'll block that character in first, and then I'll block in the other character. So for the character that starts to speak first is the character that's doing the initial acting, and then the other character will be reacting. And then they start acting and reacting back and forth as the dialogue goes on. Our audio is from Shrek 2. It's Shrek and Fiona having a little marital spat. And let's just listen to it and think about how we want our characters to actually behave during this dialogue.
They just want to give you their blessing.
Oh, great. Now I need their blessing?
Well, if you want to be a part of this family, yes.
And who says I want to be part of this family?
You did? When you married me?
Well, there's some fine print for you.
So Fiona begins to speak first. So let's just go to the file that we blocked in. Alright, so let's break this down. I'm just going to zoom into the storyboard. Now I use the tablet for this. You can use a tablet or a Cintiq to draw these out, or you can print out a storyboard from our website and just use a pencil and just draw it out. So the most important thing here is that you plan out your action before you actually start animating in Flash or Maya or any other software. You really want to plan out your action first. Get a good idea of what your poses are going to be at what dialogue. So let's start with the beginning and just break this down, and we'll explain the reasons why I chose these poses.
They just want to give you their blessing.
Okay. So in the storyboard you can see here I wrote that out. They just want to give you their blessing. So that's one thought. So I just have her arch forward a little bit in the C curve pose and with her arms out. So she's expressing to Shrek, they just want to give you their blessing. She's trying to explain that to him. So she's leaning in toward him, trying to convince him, right? And he's just standing there listening.
They just want to give you their blessing.
Oh, great.
So that's the next thought. Oh, great. So I had him lean back. It's a sarcastic reaction. He's not impressed by that, right? So I had her lean back a little bit. She's not impressed at all. She wants to hear what he's going to say next, right? He does not care about their blessing at all. Okay, so the next section, this is like the next thought. Now I need their blessing. He can't believe it. He can't believe that he needs their blessing. Like it's the last thing that he needs, right? So we're having him hunch forward in an extreme C curve, and we're having his hands out to her. Like, really? Are you kidding me? Now I need their blessing? Because it's just unbelievable to him. So we'll go to the next panel here. This is the next thought.
Well, if you want to be a part of this family, yes.
So if you want to be part of this family, yes. So I had her gesture out toward her family, as if there's a family over there. I have him swing back into the opposite C curve. His hand is just kind of neutral here, and he's going to slap himself in the head like he can't believe she's pulling this. If you want to be part of this family stuff on him. And he's just, again, he's continuously exasperated here. And she goes from this listening pose. She wants to hear what he had to say, and now she's reacting to what he just said. So there's an action and a reaction.
And who says I want to be part of this family?
Now Shrek says, and who says I want to be part of this family? And that's his reaction to what she just said about being part of the family. So I had him turn and gesture. Who says I want to be part of this family? In the blocking, I didn't have him turn like that, but we'll go over that after. So this is just a general plan, right? It's a rough plan. And who says I want to be part of this family? That's Shrek's line. Now she goes with her hands on her hips. She's very irritated now that he said that, because they're already married. She's got her hands on her hips, and she's going to scold him. Here.
You did? When you married me?
So he's irritated now. I got him into more of an S-curve posture. He's kind of in a stance where he's going to lash back. Obviously having an argument here. And she's her climax of the argument where she's scolding him. So you can see that I have on you did. She's going to point at him for you. When she says, when you married me, she's going to rise up a little bit higher. Just raise up and get a little bit over him, just to try and sort of overtake the situation. And the next thought here.
Well, there's some fine drink for you.
And that's the final piece of dialogue and the final thought of this conversation. Well, there's some fine print for you. I just brought him back up from this S-curve, this stance, into a more C-curve pose. And he just throws his arm up. He's just going to throw his arm up with his palm facing his face. There's some fine print for you. Like he's just sort of brushing her off at this point. And then she goes into a more of an S-curve stance, and she gasps. At the last pose, I have her straight with her arms down in with fists. Doesn't know what to say next. She's just so upset. He can't believe what she just said, and she can't believe what he just said. And then that's the end of this dialogue. You have to decide where you're going to break up the dialogue for each panel here. And usually it's where you might want to change the pose, and that would be on a new thought. So that's the thought process behind the acting. Let's have a look at the blocked version in Flash. I'll just play it once. Actually, I have a quick time of that. It might play a little smoother. I'll just play it one more time for you.
They just want to give you their blessing.
Oh, great. Now I need their blessing?
Well, if you want to be a part of this family, yes.
And who says I want to be part of this family?
You did? When you married me?
Well, there's some fine print for you.
So this is just blocked in. There's no tweening done whatsoever. So let's go in. I'll discuss basically the general thought process behind the timing. As you can see, there's no lip sync's been done. And as you know by now, the general workflow is to do lip sync first, then do this part, the blocking, and then you would do your facial at the end. So I didn't do any of the lip sync or the facial. I just blocked this out for you guys, just to show you, just for this class. Animated her first because she speaks first, and she's the first one to initiate the reaction. So the first thing I did with her is I got her into her initial pose, where she's saying, they just want to give you their blessing. And you can see here in the board panel, I sort of went with the pose. I did go with the pose that's there, and exaggerated it a little bit maybe too. And then in the next one, Shrek's saying, oh, great. And she goes into a listening pose. I know from my planning that he's going to do that, and she's going to go into this pose. So that's why it's good to plan this out first, so you're not guessing as you're animating. We get them into a main pose, and then sometimes we can give a little accent, maybe with the head or the hand. So I gave her a little accent on blessing right there. And it's just a 2-frame accent. Now I could add, what probably would be a good idea is and you can see there's just 2 frames here, 2 rows of keys. I don't need all those rows. I mean, only her head moves, but I'll pose the entire character anyways, just because when I go to refine, I probably am going to move maybe a little bit of the upper body too as well. So just want to key everything just in case, right? What really would be a good idea as you're blocking, you could even put in your eases as well. Okay, so after he says, oh, great. I wait till he finishes saying great before I actually move her into it, because she wants to hear that whole great, and she's not going to move until he finishes saying that, because now she's irritated, right? So to achieve that, to get her from this to this, so she's going to anticipate. She goes from this, and this is sort of an anticipation. You will notice I set a few extra keys here to raise her leg, just to get her to take a step back in between this pose and the anticipation pose. I just had her raise her leg a little bit so she can take a step. So her body comes forward a little bit, focusing first on the main torso, head and neck, and then making the pose changes to her arms afterwards. So her torso and head anticipate forward, and her arms start to come back to get into their hands on hips position. That's what I went with for an anticipation. So sometimes you can anticipate part of the body, and the arms can be going into the new pose. So over 2 frames, she goes from this pose to that pose. And then again, I could set another row to cushion that a little bit, and just have her go back a tiny bit more. This can be part of your blocking. It doesn't have to be part of the refining. And of course, whenever you have a cushion or an ease, you want to do it about more than 2 frames. It should be 5, 6, it could be up to 12 frames for a cushion. Because she's going from this pose to this pose over in 2 frames, and those 2 drawings are pretty far apart, as you can see. So you want to have a nice cushion to cushion that. So the general formula here in Flash, and you'll see it throughout all of our blocking, is you set a keyframe, and this is your key pose. You do an anticipation pose, pop them into their new pose, and then settle. Okay, so the next move, this is the next move. So she's saying, well, if you want to be a part of this family, and that's over here. So she just sort of leans forward and talks to him, and she's going to gesture toward some imaginary family. So what I had her do is bring her right arm out to gesture.
Be a part of this family, yes.
And then her right arm went out on family. So you notice we have, again, just 2 frames to get her into her extreme pose. I hit the extreme pose on the vowel of the more emphasized dialogue. In this case, the dialogue is wanna. So if you want to be a part of this family, she says, so right on wanna, we popped her into this more extreme pose, and then cushioned it. Actually, we didn't cushion it, we just brought the leg down here, but that should be, the whole body should cushion a little bit here. So that's the next extreme, and that's on the word family, and the arm flies out right on the A in family. So the arm pops out over 2 frames. Because that's a faster move, we didn't cushion it, we overshot it. So we used a little bit of overshoot. So this is the overshoot here in the extreme, and then we settle on the next row of keys. So I scrub over that, you can see overshoot, settle. The whole body, even though this arm, even though it's not part of the main gesture, which is going on over here, this arm even moves up a little bit and overshoots and settles. This is a hold. And then we anticipate again, and over 2 frames, 2 more frames, and we go into our extreme. So this is the anticipation for her hands going back on the hips. And then this overshoots again. So anticipation, overshoot, and settle. As you know by now, sometimes we just cushion. But it's nice to mix it up, especially if you want to know when you should put an overshoot in and when you should put a settle. Basically, if it's a quicker move, if you want it to be a quicker move, overshoot, then settle. Because the momentum of the movement would carry them past the settle pose, and then you settle them into the pose.
You did?
Okay. So here's the next move. So she poses right on the oo and u. So it's you did, right on the o and u. So we set a pose here, and then we got our anticipation pose. So this is our anticipation pose. She's anticipating the point, which she's going to say you, and then over 2 frames again. Just 2 frames to get to our extreme, and I think we overshot it here. And then so this is the overshoot, and then maybe 4 or 5 frames down the timeline, it settles. And the key here is, I can't emphasize enough, having the pose hit right on the emphasized vowel of the dialogue. So it would be the O on you here. If it's not, it's going to seem off. It just looks so much, and looks and feels so much better when it's posed that way, or when it's when the timing hits right on the vowels of those words.
You did? When you married me?
This is a keyframe just to make the pose stick. And then we anticipate. It looks like it's about 8 frames here. So about 7 frames. So it's And because she moves a farther distance here, we're going to give her more in-betweens to get from one pose to the next. Here's the anticipation pose here. And then again, just 2 frames to get her into her extreme pose. She goes from this anticipation to this extreme pose, and that's a far distance for her to travel. And she only does it over 2 frames. So this is a fast movement. So we overshot that. And you can see the overshoot as well. You can see here's all 3 drawings basically. So this is the anticipation up here, and you can see this where the chin is lower here. This is the overshoot, and then this is the settle. So she's gonna hit this pose right on the A in married. When you married me, and she should pose right down on the A in married. So I think it's actually a little off here, but this is blocking, and we can just slide the keys over to make sure they're in the right place. So after he says, "There's some fine print for you,"
Some fine print for you.
she holds during this whole section while he's talking. She's listening, and then again here we were going to anticipate. This pose is to make her stick. This is the anticipation pose. So anticipate here, and she's going to go. She's going to get into her angry pose, just like an angry pose with her fists at her side. And I might even have her shake here a little bit. This is her reaction to him saying, "That's some fine print for you." And she holds in this pose for a while. Let me set a row of keyframes to make it stick. This is a cushion. So what we did is we cushioned before the movement. So she's going to ease into, and then this is the pose. So in this case, we didn't anticipate or overshoot. We just use these frames to cushion her into this next pose. Use 2 frames to get her into here, and then cushion that a little bit. Wherever there's a big difference or a symbol swaps, you want to do it quickly. In other words, anticipate before, and then either cushion or overshoot afterwards, after it pops over the 2 frames. Yeah, so from this point on, as you already know by now, we're going to tween all this, check it, see how it looks, and then add in some drag, push the stretch and squash. And just that's when you're going over your animation principles and just making sure that you have as many of them in there as you can, and they're placed in the appropriate places. All right, so let's take a look at him now. So this is the default pose I put him in with his hands by his side.
They just want to give you their blessing.
While he's listening.
Blessing.
So this pose this is just to have his pose stick, and then so over 2 frames he just goes right into this. And really I would add another a row of keys here. Probably better to do it at the blocking stage as a cushion, or as a, this will be basically his settle pose. There. So he goes into this pose and it cushions a little bit.
Oh, great.
Okay, so as we discussed before, there's gestures and then there's accents. So he goes into this pose, which is a gesture, and then he accents a little bit. So he's going to stay in this main pose, and he's just going to accent a little bit. On now, so he accents right on the ow and now, which is the vowel, the O. And this is a hold, and then, okay, so it goes into a big gesture here, a new pose. So I've set a row of keyframes here for it to stick. Anticipate, he's going to say blessing, and he's going to shoot forward and go into his pose here. This is the pose that I planned out. And blessing is the most pronounced word in this line of dialogue, in this part of the dialogue. And the vowel on blessing is E, so we're gonna we put him right into this pose on the E in blessing. He goes into the pose, and this is an overshoot, and then I brought him back and to settle. So a good way to do this, as I think I went through it with you in the last class or the previous class, is you set a row of keys right on the vowel. So in this case, it'd be the E in blessing. You scrub through. You listen to it and you hear the E in blessing, and then you set a whole row of keys right on that, just so you got the right timing, and then you can go back, set another row of keys, and then start posing the character out that way. So this is a quick movement. He goes from this anticipation to this extreme pose. So that's pretty far apart. You can see how far apart those drawings are, and if you do it over 2 frames, it's going to be really fast. So because it's a fast movement, again, we're going to overshoot. So the momentum of him going forward, he continued to move forward, and then he settles. And he's listening here. And she's saying, if you want to be a part of this family, and as soon as he hears that, he's exasperated. And so this is a cushion. This is sort of he's easing into his next pose, which is this. So I gave him, you can see here there's a lot of in-betweens. So he goes from this pose just to that pose in 8 frames. So just a very small distance apart, but over 8 frames. So this is a cushion. And then over 2 frames he pops into this. This is just a gesture in reaction to what she's saying.
This family, yes.
And who says I...
Family.
And it worked out because there's a little sound effect there. I actually didn't go back and watch. And don't go back to Shrek 2 and watch how they're acting. Just, you know, come up with it in your own mind. Like, plan your own poses. And I saw Shrek 2 years ago, and I haven't watched it since. And I actually forget exactly the poses that they actually get into in the movie. But I don't care. I didn't look at it. This is just a good line of dialogue where they're reacting off each other. So I don't know if he actually slaps his head there, but there's a sound effect that he could be putting his foot into the ground or something. I don't know. But the sound effect worked out for the head smack. Alright, so he goes into this pose over 2 frames from here to here. It's quick, so we gave that a cushion. So we just cushioned from here to here. It's just a little cushion. That's over looks like about 6 frames there. Okay, so we held him, and then we cushioned into the next pose. So there's our cushion right here. And then over 2 frames, he goes to this. And there's a bit of a cushion as well. So you can say that's a cushion, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. So over 6 frames, he goes from here to here. So that is a bit of a cushion. I mean, these arms can go down a little bit more, so they're closer to this pose. But we cushioned on either side of this. You can see this long cushion and this long cushion, and then the pose goes from here to here. And that's where he moves the farthest distance, and that's why we do it in 2 frames, just so it's quick. And there won't be a lot of fixing to do in the middle here.
And who says I want to be part of this family?
And you can see the S-curve in his pose here.
And who says I want to be part of this family?
So this is so he goes into this pose. This is his main pose now for this section of the dialogue. And on family, he's just going to accent a little bit. We want to do that. It's nice. We don't want to put him into another major pose because then he's overacting and changing position too much. But the accent is nice on the A in family.
To be part of this family?
So we actually gave him a bit of an antic and an overshoot. This whole section is a long time. That's a long time for him to hold and not move at all. So we just gave him a little bit of an accent on his head. Of course, you can see we keyed the entire body. But here, I just accent. You can see this little key here. That's just a cushion for this head movement. So as he moves his head a little bit, we just blink his eyes as he's listening, just to keep him alive.
You did when you married me?
Well, there's some
Okay, so the next move. Okay, so this one's basically following the same formula that we've been going with. We set a row of keyframes so he sticks, and this is the second row here is just a cushion. So we go from here to here is just a cushion. And then this is a main pose. And we give him about 6 or 7 frames here and he cushions again. This is the main pose on well. And he gets into that pose right on the E in well. So he slows into this and then he quickly pops into this pose. So this acts as a cushion and it also acts as an anticipation as well. So it's kind of a cushion into an anticipation pose and then quickly... Well, there's some fine print for you. Right on the E in theirs. And then we settle him over 7 frames he settles. Okay, and then we just set a key for him to stick. Anticipate back a little bit, and then 2 frames to get him into this pose. And then we cushioned, I think. Yeah, and then a cushion.
Well, there's some fine print for you.
Alright, so that's pretty much our run through of the 2-character sequence. You guys have fun with it. Again, you can use your own dialogue. You can even use your own characters. Again, the most important thing here is your timing and your posing on the most emphasized words of the dialogue, and then right on the vowels of the most emphasized words of the dialogue. And mix it up a little bit. You know, go into main poses, give them a little accent on another vowel, and don't overpose your character. Stay away from cliche poses. Remember not to have your character hold for too long. You can give them a little accent and a blink. Remember to have a checklist of your animation principles beside your screen and just really go through each one and make sure that you have them there where they need to be. Remember to arc your arms. Remember your arcs, your anticipations, your overshoots, and your settles. Make good acting choices in your poses. Nice appealing poses that are silhouetted, as clear as possible. You don't want arms jumbled up in front of each other too much. Think about where that you can apply these principles and where it's the most appropriate place to apply the principles. Make sure they're supporting themselves properly and they're balanced. Send me your video again. I'll give you some feedback on that, and we'll just make sure that this is as fine-tuned as you can possibly get it, because this is going to be a really nice piece for your demo reel. This one and your monologue sequence, even the lip sync dialogue and gestures class, acting number 5. Those 3 pieces will be great pieces for your for the flash section of your demo reel.